Hi, Irene. Good morning. I always come on a few minutes early to set up the camera and stuff and try to figure out how close I should be to what we're working on. I'm thinking I need to be a little closer. That might work. What do you think? All right, let's see. If there's a little bit of background noise, it's because I've got all the windows open and all the things. Now to set up the iPad so I can see your chat because I have my back. Oop. Don't want to hear myself talk because I have my back to the camera and computer. Closer. Okay, let's see. We can do closer. Let's see. Let's see how close we can get. Okay, and close your eyes for a minute, anybody who's watching, because it's going to get wonky for a second while I focus the camera. Let's see. Hold on, let's do this. See if it focuses on that. It's backwards. Okay. Good morning, Kathy. Okay, so we're nice and close now. I just have to remember to stay in frame. That's going to be a thing. No, I decided to try 9 o'clock, Kathy. You're not wrong. Which, to be honest, is a little early for me. It was a little tough getting ready this morning. So we might go back to 10 o'clock next week. You all let me know what time works best for you. So we're here at my table, and I've got to keep working on my plant that we started last week. Let's see. See if it's mostly in frame. So this, I started working on some stitches on it last night. And I'm doing some, I need these. I'm doing some sort of messy back stitches around some of the shapes on the plant. You can see a line of them right here. And by messy back stitches, I mean, I'm not intentionally not trying to keep them the same length or anything. I'm not being super picky and particular about it. So I did the pot first, then I did the dirt, and I outlined it. I have this knot that I accidentally pulled through the front side, but I honestly think I'm going to just leave it. Then I started with a few different shades of green, pulling out some of the plant parts in the pot. Hey, Linda. And so I started with a light green, and then I went with a sort of a little darker green, and then darkest green, maybe this way. And I thought I would finish the outlining on camera. So I just have some of the green here on my needle. And I want to outline this little piece right here and probably this one next to it. So I came up through the back at the bottom of one side of the little piece of plant. And then I'm going to go back down, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch away or so. And I'm going to also come back up again about 1/4 of an inch or so away from there and make a stitch. And then I'm going to go back in where that other one went down, like this. It's a very simple stitch. It's like a running stitch, but you're filling in all the holes rather than leaving the holes empty. So when we did these running stitches, you have these spaces between stitches. So when you do a back stitch, you're filling in that space. I was doing some of this downstairs last night, and some of the stitches got pulled a little tight and they kind of disappeared beneath the pieces of fabric, but that's okay. So I just kind of went around the little pieces of fabric. I'm not trying to do all of them. I'm just going to do some of them. And next week, if you guys want, we can continue to do stitching, or we can do some watercoloring or what. You guys let me know, not only here in the chat, but if you're in my Facebook group, A Life of Art and Self-Expression, or in the other art group, My Creative Year, you can comment below the post about the live and let me know what you would like to see. And maybe which time is better for you. I'm really enjoying this stitching too. I think in part, it's because, well, for me, it harkens back to happier memories, right? Non-pandemic times. I left myself too short of a thing here. Okay, again. So then you just are doing a simple outline like this, and it sort of pulls out a little bit of that shape, kind of defines it a little bit more, and adds more. I got to remember which it must have been this one. which floss that was. Not that it matters. These two are pretty close in color. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I just want to do one other little one, but I just ran out of thread, so. I'm using DMC embroidery floss for this, and I'm using all 6 strands. So when I want to do a simple stitch like this that I know is going to, at least in part, get sort of hidden behind the little strips of fabric, and I don't want it to be a big, heavily textured stitch, then I'm going to use a thicker thread so that I have more chances than not of it really showing up. Sometimes I will use crochet thread. So the really thin, like size 10 crochet thread, or yarn even. Just use what you have in the color that you need. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not thrilled about going to the store right now at all, not even the arts and crafts store. I occasionally get brave and go to the thrift store, but that's going to be few and far between too. I did some of this last night because I didn't want to sit and just do back stitching on camera all morning this morning. Okay, so that's all I want to do for that. And you can see here on the back where all the different colors are. So I'm going to take this piece and wind it back on here. Oops. It just is too stressful. Okay, so then we've done a little bit of outlining on our piece, and we've kind of helped define the shapes. We're not done. So I have this color. This is color 503, DMC color 503. It's sort of a bluish grayish green. It's actually very close in color to the ice dyed cheesecloth that Darlene sent me. So I'm going to cut off a piece of that. I don't need to. I had a piece. Okay. And how many strands are in here? 4. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Do I want to do 4 or do I want to do 2? Actually, we're going to do 2. So I'm going to separate my strands. And thread the needle. So you can add texture and interest, define your shapes with thread and beads and buttons, and of course more fabric, just like you can in a painting by adding paint and marks to your paintings or your art journal pages. This is no different. You're just using different mediums to create an image. So I'm going to come up from the bottom of the pot. And then I'm going to go maybe, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so over, kind of slant it up. And then about 1/8 inch straight down. So we have this slanted stitch right here. Okay, and then I'm going to go up here again about 1/8 inch. You get a cross stitch, like an X. And that actually is the wrong way. That's the wrong way. Okay, so I want to actually come up over here. Because I'm talking while I'm doing this, it's okay. So you want to go here and then push the needle down back towards you. So that when you do the cross stitch, the thread crosses over that stitch you just made. Hey, Aunt Beck, hey. So again, we're going to take this, we're coming out here, we're going to go up here. We're going to go back towards me. Yeah. Oh, yay, you found the part. Aunt Beck this morning had some computer issues. I mean, sorry, sewing machine issues, which happens. But then, you know, when machine is discontinued and you can't find the parts and, you know, combine that with a pandemic, that's a problem. So what we're doing is we're doing these cross stitches. And that it just adds, can you see that? Let's see, texture. I'm not even sure you can see that because of the thread color. So what you're doing is, why do I not have a piece of paper? How is that possible? Holy cow, hold on. So I'm adding some texture and interest up the side of the pot by doing these stitches that look like this. And it just not only adds texture to the piece, but it adds a little more color on the side of the pot. So again, we have threads coming out here. So I want to go up here. I'm going to put the needle in. Then I'm going to take about 1/8 inch away and have the needle come out. And then I'm going to cross it over and go up here. And then I'm going to take one last stitch here because we come to the bottom rim of the pot. And then I'm going to tie that off. Need to look at last week. Yeah, there is a playlist for slow stitching, and I've made sure to add these live broadcasts that have to do with slow stitching into that playlist. Not a problem, Lisa. And yeah, Becky and Beck, Lisa knows all about trying to find sewing machine parts lately. She's had the same problem. Different sewing machine, same problem. Finding art parts right now and tool parts, machine parts is, a problem. Thanks to the pandemic, it's an issue. So I'm going to come up here to what's the top rim of the pot, and we're going to do something similar. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller though, I think. I should say shorter stitches. And of course, if you guys hear noise in the background, I have 2 different neighbors that decided to do construction this morning. So there'll be lots of nail pounding and things. So can you see that difference in there? Between the 2 sides, there's more texture and a little bit more color on one side than the other. Yeah, and it just gives it more interest. And if you're going to use your stitching and your fabric as your medium to create a piece of artwork, then, just like with paint, if you're doing a journal page, you want to mix up your mark making and your textures. You do the same thing with stitching. If you just think of it as a fabric painting or a fabric collage. Of course, it does mean if you're like with painting that you want like every paint color in the paint box, like that is a thing. So then you want every DMC thread color that's on the planet. Same thing. Only DMC thread is a little easier to store. Let's see. Now I'm right-handed, so going this way is sometimes I get confused. My brain gets confused. Of course, right now with coronavirus, my brain gets confused a lot. Just saying. Corona brain. Anybody else having that issue? So I'm going to do both sides of the pot. And then we're going to try to fix the rim of the pot here. I'll point out the mistake if I haven't already, because I've already forgotten if I said I made a mistake on the last night on the back stitching. Me, yeah, see, right? Yeah, exactly. Each stitch makes it more interesting to look at, makes it more visually appealing. Each little piece of fabric that you add for texture. And each stitch that I take with the embroidery floss stitches some of this cheesecloth and lace down a little bit more and attaches it more firmly to the finished piece. So all we did was add the cross stitches to the pot. It made a big difference already. But see how I when I backstitched this part last night, it's not only flat, it kind of curves the wrong way. It should curve more down this way instead of going up. I don't want to be bothered taking the stitches out, so we're going to try to fix that this morning. First thing we're going to do is take some more of that green color that we were using. Second cup of coffee, yeah. Oh boy, yeah, coronavirus has made me start drinking way too much coffee. That's an issue. Trying to really make sure I limit myself to 2 cups because, yeah, it's not good. So I really need this to curve the other way. And in fact, I'm going to give myself a guide marker. Do I have a marking pen in my? Of course not. Why would I have a marking pen in there? Because I need it. So why would it be in there? Hold on. Okay, so don't just do this with any old, pen. This is a water-soluble fabric marking pen. So, which is what I should have done last night. I should have made myself a guide because look at really where the line should be. That's where it should be. That's not where it is, but that's where it should be. So I'm going to use my shading color that we've just started using here. And we are going to do some little tiny cross stitches to start. We're going to try to fix this with our stitches rather than ripping stuff out. I don't really like ripping stuff out. Don't forget to thumbs up the live if you can. Somebody last week gave it a thumbs down. Guessing they didn't like stitching. Now for me, when I'm doing my stitching, precision stitching is not my bag. It's not mine with painting either. I like suggesting shapes and I like messy marks and I like the look of something that looks very folk artsy. But that may not be what you like, and that's okay. And you want to do this with a lot more precision than what I'm doing it with, and that there is nothing wrong with that. Oop, thread loop. Hold on. There we go. So I'm just adding a little bit of a shadow underneath where the rim should be. Then we're going to restitch the rim, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to cover up and start to add highlights. Oh, air compressor, you hear that? Hey, Kara. And don't forget that while I'm stitching and while you're watching me, if I'm forgetting to continue to talk and explain things, because I do get involved in what I'm doing, even when I'm live, but even when I'm on camera, and you all don't normally see that lately because I edited out of some of the video, but if I'm forgetting to talk or answer your questions, please let me know in the chat. So we're going to tie this off and trim that. And so that's started because this really needs to be down here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to restitch that line. So I have these two colors and one is more brown than the other. And I think I used this one. So let's grab that. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Lisa, if you didn't see Aunt Beck's Facebook post this morning, she literally had a piece of her machine disintegrate on her this morning. And of course, then found out that that piece is not made anymore. Because that's super helpful. So we're going to come up at one end of that blue line. And we're going to restitch this back stitched line that I did last night that I did in the wrong place. Then we're going to see if we can either cover that up or maybe we do need to take it out. I don't know yet. I'm hoping I can just cover it up, but I'm thinking the more I look at it, that I'm thinking I need to take it out. But I'll show you how I do that. It's like with any other sewing project, you need to not only know how to assemble something, but you need to know how to disassemble things when you make a mistake. So that particular pen, there's lots of different kinds of fabric marking pens. This particular one, if you get it wet, it disappears with water. There are some that disappear with air or heat. I prefer the ones with water because if I mark that line, but then say I don't get to stitching it for like 2 weeks, it's not going to go away. It's going to stay there. So, and at the end of my stitches, I always press everything and give it a good steam press. So I would just add a little bit of water to the front of this. And then while I'm pressing it, that pen would just disappear. And it's just by, it says mark be gone, but you know, I just got these at Joann's. Any fabric store should have these. Just make sure you get the ones that disappear with water. They do have the ones again that disappear with air. I find them highly inconvenient, especially when you're working on an embroidery project that you're maybe not finishing right away because you go back to it and all your marks are gone. You know, I was going to ignore this and pretend that I did it correctly like the first time and not fix it on camera, but you know, I'm not that person, so. Okay, almost. One more stitch. Okay. I do think I need to take, I was going to do something else, but the more I'm looking at it, I think that row of stitching needs to come out. So we're going to tie that one off. We're going to come in here. These are, now these, I think I meant to say something about these last week and I don't know that I did. These are surgical scissors. These are from a medical supply. They are my favorite scissors for stitching on the planet. I've got like 3 or 4 pairs of them. I've never had to resharpen them or anything. They stay super sharp. And yeah, they're great little scissors and they're very inexpensive. So I'm going to go into the center of this wrong stitching line. I'm going to just take the tip of my scissors and I'm going to make sure I'm just lifting up just the embroidery thread and nothing else, and just clip it. And then I'm going to take my sewing needle and I'm going to go to each stitch on the side of where I clipped that, and I'm going to pull it up, just the thread. You have to have a little bit of patience with this sometimes. There's 6 strands of embroidery floss here, so it takes a little bit of finagling to get it out. I'm not looking at the chat right now, so give me a second. Okay, I need to flip that over because we don't want those long strings on the front. So we're going to pull it out from back here. Let's see. If you just run your fingernails over the fabrics, the needle holes should disappear for the most part. Okay, so there's one side. So I'm going to tie that one off and trim it. Let's see about the other side. Oh, I see what the problem is. It's wrapped around each other. Hold on. This is probably the part where I would turn up the music. And I don't find picking out knots frustrating, but I know some of you do. You don't have to fiddle with this, and I might not keep fiddling with it because I'm on camera, but you could just leave it. You know, let's just leave it. Nobody's going to notice it but me. Where do you get the scissors? So I went to, okay, so I've, like most of us that are of a certain age, I've had different medical procedures over the years and had to go buy braces for my hands or braces for my feet when I had foot surgery. And so I remember being in a medical supply store that was local to where I lived then. And I saw these hanging on a shelf. And I said, what are those? And they're surgical scissors. I think they're for bandaging and taking out stitches and things. And they said, oh, those are, surgical. I said, okay. Can I have 2 pairs of those? And at the time, I think they were like less than $6 each. So I would just Google medical supply. And you should be able to find them that way. And these are 1-inch squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, they're about 4.5 inches long. So they're not too big. They're not too small. And the blade is short enough, I believe, that you can get it through TSA if you were taking your stitching with you. Yeah, American Science and Surplus might have it, but you probably can get them from a local medical supply store if they're still open. And, of course, Amazon, but I would check the local medical supply. They might have them there. Okay, so that is better without that line there. And you can see here, that looks better. Where's my water bottle? Somewhere. I don't want to spray this right now, though. But if I get this wet, that blue line will disappear. So now we can go in and add some highlights. So I have some white DMC. Yeah. And plus, it's going to take a long time for you to get the part, Aunt Beck. It's going to suck. Okay, I'm going to separate this because this is 6-stranded floss. I'm going to separate it in half, 3 and 3. The stitch that we're going to make is already a bulky stitch. You don't need to use all 6 strands. So on the original plant that I meant to bring upstairs and forgot before we got started, oops, is a little cactus plant. And it has these like white marks, just like on this painting. So we're going to add some of those. Do you condition the strands? No, I do have beeswax right here next to me. If I'm really struggling with the floss, then I will run it through the beeswax a bit. With DMC, I don't usually find I have to do that, but with some of the other brands, I do. So I'm going to start probably over here on the right side. And I'm going to come up on one side of this green piece of plant. I'm going to go not all the way across, like at a diagonal. I'm going to just treat this as if it's its own sort of rectangle. And I'd probably come up like right about here. Go push the needle all the way through back to where we went in that first time. We're going to do a bullion stitch. Oops, what happened to the picture? Can you all see me? Okay, I don't know. On my iPad, the picture disappeared. Okay, so we went in the fabric up through the back here. We went down over here and then back out when we went up that first time. Okay. So now I'm going to, this is maybe, I don't know, 5/8 of an inch space here. So I'm going to wrap my thread around the needle enough times to cover that space, about this same length, not too tight. There's a tip. Don't wrap your needle too tight. Okay. Hold on to those loops and push your needle through. Till you feel it is taut. Then pull the whole thing towards you this way, pulling and adjusting the loops with your finger, and then go down. That's a bullion stitch. And you've made this sort of loop of loops. So then I'm going to do another one like over here. Now, when I did the other face, I used rows of these bullion stitches to outline the face. You can use these for a lot of things. You can do rows of these to outline the highlights on the pot, like along the ridge here, the rim of the pot, which I might do in a different color. And so you can add those all along. I wouldn't do all of them, but I would definitely do some of them. Oops. What kind of projects are you guys working on right now this week? And how are you all handling the current world situation? It adds a lot of tactile dimension. That's a great phrase, Aunt Beck. It adds a lot, and it really does add a lot to the piece. And if you also add beads and things, you can also do, let's see if I can reach it. So you can also do, this is our slow stitch meditation book. So, which at some point we might work at pages in here. But this page is very simple in color. It's not, there's no bright colors in here, but I've added a lot of tactile dimension, not only with the fabric, but with the stitches. So you have sort of a messy blanket stitch, and then just like a bed of French knots, along with the background running stitch, a little bit of seed stitch. There's more of the same over here. And then we have our cross stitches holding the lace down. So you don't, the stitches add a lot. You don't have to add beads or anything. I do sometimes add beads. I don't always, but I do have a large supply of seed beads. So that's like a thing. And this one, I added some buttons. And then this is a little piece of resin that I did. Yeah, I agree. So if you guys want at some point, we can do one of these little squares and get it into the book. This is just, I just do these separately and then glue them in. And these are like, you can do these pretty quickly. They don't take much time. It's just a little 6x6 square of fabric. People with loss of sight. Yeah. So the nice thing about these stitching pieces, especially with people with impaired vision, you can really do something small like the meditation journal pages onto a card. And these are very tactile. They can really, I mean, I would think that if I had a loss of sight, this would be a very interesting piece. Zentangle's very relaxing. I agree. Any of those things that you really just don't have to think about, and there's no right way or wrong way. It's sort of like my little knot that's right here that I think I'm just going to end up leaving and maybe pulling up into another stitch or something. You know, they take our mind off of the current situation and, you know, help us relax and let go of some stress. The depression and stress is a real thing right now. We were speaking to our my mother-in-law last night, and she is not somebody that normally lets things get to her, but you can tell by the tone of her voice it's getting to her. So you know, yeah. You don't have to do these in white, but the real plant of these, they're like a white or an off-white. You could do these in, you know, green if you wanted. It depends on the piece that you're working on. When I did the face, I did them in black. I'm having trouble doing these the other way. I don't know. Let's try wrapping the thread. This one's like, yeah, probably because I'm reading the chat while I'm doing them, which is probably not super great, but that's okay. The trick is to just wrap the thread around the needle enough. And I would just probably keep doing those. I would definitely do all the dark green ones with white. I may do the lighter green ones with this off-white color. Oh yeah, Kathy, go water those plants. I've got to go do my daughter's house too. I got to go water her plants. Yeah, Linda, I've always been a germaphobe. Those out there who've known me for a while know this about me. I used to have a daycare business, so hello, I'm a germaphobe. This hasn't helped. I also have anxiety disorder, so this hasn't helped at all. It's made it worse. My birthday is next week, I guess, a week from, I don't know when. Beginning of August, which is coming up quick, I guess. And the kids have been traveling, so I probably won't see them for my birthday because I think I'm going to want them to quarantine when they get back for a couple of weeks, but that's okay. I couldn't think of the word quarantine because, you know, hello, what did we say before? Corona brain. So yeah, so if you do that, that adds a lot to this piece. So, you know, we could have called it done last week, but I knew this piece wasn't done. So I'm going to come up at this green one over here where this knot is that I mistakenly have in the wrong place. I'm going to try to grab it with my white thread. Let's see. Yeah, germs and anxiety. And this doesn't help you at all. Like in the slightest little bit. It makes it worse. Although if I actually am out and, that people or businesses are showing me that they're really taking the precautions and being safe, that does help alleviate the anxiety a lot. But like the other day, I went to go drop off Etsy orders at the mail drop place. I forgot my mask, people. That's like only the second time, I think, or third time that's happened since this whole mess started. Okay, so then I'm going to go straighten out our knots, our loops a bit. And I'll hold this up to the camera. The knot is still there, the green knot that I got in there by mistake, but it's much less obvious now. So hang on. It's right there. Oh yeah, we could do that. I don't know what day my birthday is, but we could work out something. Yeah, Darlene, everybody that I know, even people who don't normally have issues with depression, it's like a real thing right now. So don't feel alone and stop beating yourself up about it because it's a real thing. And yeah, Linda, those back packages really had to go out tomorrow, but I think from now on, I'm going to be scheduling a USPS pickup because that was just, honestly, I freaked myself out. Everybody else in the store had a mask on. It was literally just me, but freaked myself out. You are not alone. And, there's a lot of us on Facebook and here on YouTube. We've formed a little community. We have these live broadcasts. We have some Facebook chats for those of you who need help and support. It's what we're here for. There's a lot of fabric right there. Hang on. So this is going to be a tough one. One of the other things that I think we're all doing, it's so funny because I started just playing just because I'm slow stitching and I didn't have all the colors of fabric I wanted. So I started dyeing my own fabric. It's tight right here. Hang on. And now there's a whole group of us that are playing with, there we go, playing with dyeing fabric. And if you've been following me on Instagram or Facebook or other social media, you know that I've been playing with using different things, found things, inexpensive things to dye fabric. So the other thing that we're going to be doing is sharing our different recipes for dyeing fabric. I'm going to actually take some of my swatches and put them in a little notebook, probably about the size of the meditation journal. And I'm going to start a little notebook with swatches of different things that I've used to dye fabric. Yeah, slow stitch a mask. You don't have to have a machine to make yourself a cute mask. You could definitely slow stitch a mask. I'm going to try to just go through the top layer of fabric here because that was tough. Yeah, dyeing the fabric, you don't need to use chemicals. You don't need to use anything dangerous. Alum, which you probably can find a generic brand of alum at your grocery store. As my friend Wendy did find out, though, don't buy the McCormick one because it's really expensive. I got the Kroger brand. It was $3.19. So alum and some white vinegar, and then whatever you're going to use as your colorant, whether it's coffee or black beans or turmeric, paprika. There's a lot. We're trying a lot of different ones right now. By the way, the black beans give you a purple. Can you see something like this where you've done some embroidery stitches and fun things on a mask? If you've got to wear a mask, why can't it be cute? Although I will tell you, as a lot of us are in places where it's blasting hot right now, even for Portland. I mean, it's not as hot as some places where you all are, but for Portland, it's hot. Like 90 is hot for us. So the blue paper masks are much more comfortable when it's hot than the fabric ones. So when I'm walking, I bring a paper mask, but if I'm out shopping and I'm going to be in the air conditioning, I bring a cloth mask, because if I've got to wear a mask, why can't it be cute? Yeah, I haven't checked the weather here yet. I don't have the air conditioning on yet because it's loud and it would be distracting. I am near Portland, and before any of you ask, I'm fine. There is some craziness going on in Portland, but I'm south of Portland. South. Some of you who know geography better could say for sure southeast, southwest. I think southwest of Portland. I'm far enough away from Portland that I'm not near the craziness that's going on in Portland right now. I did see some evidence over the weekend of what was going on. And for those who don't follow the news, the federal government is here. Trying to help control things, but I don't know. I think they're making it worse. But I am going to just do my due diligence and stay out of the way. That squeaking is the table wheels, by the way, if you hear a little squeak. So see, how big a difference does that make? I agree, Linda. The violence, and well, we shouldn't probably get into it here, but it's not helping get the point across that I think that people want to get across, because you can't hear the message over the violence and destruction. That's all I'll say about that, in my opinion. Not to mention the fact that the country and the world are already having a tough time with the pandemic and the threat to humanity that creates. Yeah. See, it really does add a lot to the piece, and also gives you more of a defined direction for these plant pieces rather than just a scattered clump of green stuff on top of the pot. It helps define the shapes. I got to tell you all, my grandmother would be pleased as punch that I was sitting here doing this embroidery. Of course, she would tell me my back was way too messy, because, she was very much of the school that the back needs to be as neat as the front. Now I'm using a really long needle, which I prefer to use, but the problem with that is sometimes when you're doing these bullion stitches, especially, it's hard to get your last stitch in gracefully. Oops. Yeah, I have no problem with the message they're trying to get out, because I think it's a message that's needed. I just don't think that's the way to do it. Now, if you were doing a pot of flowers, you could do a series of little French knots for the flower centers. You could use seed beads. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of those Japanese needles, which the word, I'm not going to even try to say the word because I have trouble Englishing most days. So I don't want to butcher a beautiful language like Japanese, but if I'm not mistaken, that is one of those needles. I do have some of those needles, and I do like them very much. They're nice and sharp. They come in different lengths. I prefer a long needle. This one is about 2.5 inches. And there's a lot of different places to get them, but I found the easiest place to find them was on Etsy. And of course, I'm all about supporting the small mom and pops, not only locally, but your Etsy sellers. And no, not just because I am one. The chain stores are going to have, for the most part, no problem staying in business. It's the mom and pops I'm worried about. Okay, so we're going to keep going. So we've got to do this one and then this one. And then I do think we're going to switch to this off-white color. And I think I'm going to do the off-white color on the lighter green pieces. And then we'll sit back and take a look at it and see if there's anything else that we think we need to do with it. What do you all think? I'm really surprised we haven't gotten interrupted yet. We're puppy sitting my daughter's dog, Lily. She's in the other room with my husband while he's working. But she usually doesn't like for me to have the door closed. So I'm a little surprised she hasn't come banging on the door with her head butting in the door, which she does. She headbutts the door. I don't think she's figured out yet she can open the doorknobs, but she can. They're just the latch type, so she can just push down on it. Nobody tell her, okay? Okay. Oops. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. Yeah, I like the Japanese needles. There was also one that I found at Hobby Lobby, of all places, one of the last times I was able to get in there before this whole mess started, that looked almost exactly like this. And it came in a pack of just a few needles of sort of long and longer. And they had the gold tops on them. And they weren't very expensive. I don't remember. It was just their brand of sewing tools that they have, which I don't remember the name of. But if you have a chance to get into a Hobby Lobby, you could look for those. But you need to know, like, if you don't mind working with the small short needles, then there's a lot more options. But if you like working with a big long needle like I do, then there's fewer options of a nice, slim, long needle that doesn't look like you're poking a hole in the fabric with an awl. Because that's a thing. Once you get the hang of these stitches, they're actually pretty cool. And this is one of my favorite stitches for adding texture. I like the longer needle because it's nice and strong. It can really poke through lots of layers of fabric like I have on here right now. Plus, as we all get older, we have issues with our hands, right? And arthritis and, different things. So 2 things. The longer needle is easier to hold on to when your hands aren't like working exactly right because we're not young anymore. But also, don't forget to stop and do some, stretches and some sort of exercises with your hands. And don't just sit and stitch for hours. That's, we're all too old for that. We can't do that anymore. And that's probably why we have problems now. Sometimes I wear my compression gloves. I do have some. Yeah, so I found that true definitely at our local Joann's, Lisa. I would call first because um, a lot of things are wiped out. Our local Joann's, there's like no point really even in going in there because half the store is just empty. And to be honest, I have a room full of stuff. I don't really need a lot. And when I do need something, I just order it off of Amazon. We have a Facebook chat of art friends, and invariably, if somebody needs something, we'll ask in the group, "Have you seen this? Do you have some?" Or like if I'm purging stuff, like I've been doing, I'll ask in there first, "Do you guys need any of this?" In fact, I've got a couple more things to post over there in that chat group. And we share that way. Yeah. So sometimes your hands let you know the mind is willing, but the body not so much, right? You hear the crow outside? One of the reasons I like working with the felt as a base, and I like doing these sort of collage type art pieces out of fabric, is I can do like what I just did, and I can scrunch this up like this. I can put it into a ball. When I'm done, like I said before, the last thing I do is give it a good steam press. And because I'm using cottons and wool, I don't have to worry about the iron melting the fabric or anything. So I tend to use natural fibers because of that. It's not going to be long enough. That's good. Let's tie that in a knot. And that way I can just give it a good steam and flatten it when I'm done. Yeah, so I did get a bunch of floss from my friends when I was running out of certain colors. But to be fair, I already had a lot of floss. It's one of those things that I just kept, and I wasn't exactly sure why I kept it, and then I discovered slow stitching. And I had some fabric. I have ordered a few things, and when I was able to get into stores safely, I did buy a few things, but things are very slim. Yeah, it's time to break out those parts that we've had in the art room for years that we aren't sure why we've kept, but we can't manage to get ourselves to throw away. Now it's the time to use them. And, the dyeing of fabric started because I couldn't get the colors I wanted, but I realized I had some things that I could use to dye my own fabric. So there's no reason why you can't do that. You can order floss directly from DMC. You can get some parts from Etsy. Of course, you can get some stuff from Amazon. We have started a sort of resource list over in my Facebook group, A Life of Art and Self-Expression. If you're in the group and there's a resource that you found that we don't have listed, that we should have listed, put it in the comments below and we will get it added. Yeah, you know what? I do miss it, but at the same time, right now, the idea of having to go to the store and browse through fabric racks for stuff just gives me the heebie-jeebies. But I miss the days where you could just, my husband and I would spend the day and we would go for a drive and we would go thrifting and we would go find a cool place to have some lunch and, discover Oregon because we're newish to Oregon. And, I miss not being able to do that. Okay. So that is that for the moment. What do you think? I'm going to take this off-white color. Yeah. So that's not the point, husband. So we live near some protected wetlands and stuff, and we go on evening walks frequently. And, there's always flower petals on the ground and, things like that. So I have a habit of picking them up, bringing a plastic bag with me, and coming home and boiling things. So, the husband asks, "What are you cooking? Flowers?" He told me I wasn't allowed to strip his new rose bush that he got with red roses on it. If he goes out and finds that I've taken all the flower petals off, I'm in trouble. But I heard red roses make a real pretty red dye. Yeah, so I have been, some of the places that are being really great about customer safety are the thrift shops, at least around here. They're being very, very careful. Hold on, I need a tissue. My allergies are driving me crazy. I put on the autofocus, so hopefully that'll help a little bit better. We're going to switch to the off-white. So, yeah, so the thrift shops have been great. And of course, Walmart, I guess, announced this week that it's going to be no shoes, no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service at all of their stores worldwide, which is interesting. Hey, now. So we're going to do this lighter green pieces of our plant in this off-white color. A lot of fabric right there. St. Vincent de Paul. Yeah, see, I don't know. You can do some sort of thrifting for supplies via Goodwill's website. So Goodwill has a website where they sell some stuff online. They did before this. And of course, eBay. But, if you have friends, creative friends like I do, I just can message them and say, we share things all the time. I find I'm running out of, 535, which seems to be the DMC floss color. Oh, you're welcome. So that's something I do occasionally is do a purge. I'll put a bunch of stuff in a big medium priority mailbox and then I'll sell it in the Etsy shop. Nell just bought a box for me. And, that's a way to get stuff too. You can also put a message out in, again, the Facebook group, A Life of Art and Self-Expression, or My Creative Year. And, say, hey guys, I'm having trouble finding, whatever it is. Does anybody have any they could sell me or know where I could get some without going out and risking myself? And yeah, I like that you can, go to Walmart, you still be in your pajamas, but as long as you have a mask on and shirt and shoes, you're good. Of course, so pardon me if you all get offended, but I sort of wonder when I was reading the article this morning. So if you had a shirt, shoes, and a mask on, but no pants, are they still going to let you in to go shopping? I just, I think they need to be real specific with their clientele. Oh, you're welcome. So yeah, Etsy has become one of my resources for parts and supplies, and that's why I decided to, rather than trying to figure out where to donate some of my excess that I know would be useful, I started to try to put it in the Etsy shop because I know there's other people out there like me that are, I don't need 3 yards of fabric to do slow stitching. I just need a little square. And I love scrap packs to add to my stash and collection. And so I know I'm not the only one. And so that was why I started doing that. So, and like I said, there's a group of us creatives over on Facebook that, do some sharing and support. Let's see if I can do a little tiny one, little tiny, like 3 or 4 loop one. Let's see. Oh, I always seem to be out of 535. It's a gray color. I seem to use it like crazy. It seems to be my go-to color. It's the same color or similar color to this vintage silk buttonhole twist. This is a Coates and Clark one. There's also a Cortichelli Belding one that I don't have here right now because I've used the one spool, but it's the same exact color. I am looking for these giant spools of modern silk twist in the same color. These are the 2 grays they make. Neither one is the right color. This is the dark gray. This is the lighter gray. And yeah, neither one is the same color. So I keep buying the silk twist vintage because it's all I can find. But yeah, I use the embroidery floss when I can because I have more of that and it's a little bit easier to get. But yeah, 535. Always looking for that one. For whatever reason, the gray color is just, I don't know. It's just a thing for me right now. So there, look at that. That's coming together. What do you think? I do love this vintage silk buttonhole twist. I think we talked about this last time. It's I wasn't sure, but it's $3.99 a spool. Each spool is only 10 yards. They don't make buttonhole twists like this out of silk anymore. This purely silk cording, this is size F. This is intended for beading. Fire Mountain Gems, I think, owns Purely Silk, or they're the main supplier of Purely Silk, although you can get it from Amazon and Walmart's websites. It comes in a lot of colors, and there's 140 yards on one spool for about, depending on where you get it, about $9, $10. A lot more thread per dollar than this one, but they don't come in the same colors. And like with my paints and my watercolors, I like certain colors. And this color is really pretty. But this gray color, I don't know what it is about this gray color, this cool gray. I don't know. This is the closest one I've found. This is a modern button and craft thread by Coates and Clark. And this is color. It says Art S920 and then it says 620. Coates and Clark. There's 50 yards on here. I got this at Joann's. It's just polyester thread. Polyester? Yeah, poly cotton. So it doesn't have the shine that the silk twist has, but it's almost identical in color. So I do use this because there's just something about this color. And for you, it might be a different thing. It might be a different color completely that really is attracting you to and your stitching. But that seems to be my go-to color for a lot of things. I even used it here to seed stitch the dirt. Oh, good, Kathy. Yeah, most of our stuff is on sprinkler system, but against my better judgment, my daughter and son-in-law are out of town. We won't get into that on camera, but anyway, I promised I would make sure their pots don't die. So I haven't watered them since, when did I go over there? Monday? Sunday. I went Sunday. So it's been hot, so I probably need to go over there today and go check them. Yeah, so you can order some things from DMC, thread and floss wise. Of course, you can order from Fire Mountain Gems, Amazon, Walmart has good resources, even Joann's and Michael's on their website. The problem is everybody has shipping delays, and or even the websites are out of stock on stuff. Yeah, we haven't. It's been very dry for Portland. For Portland, it's been very dry. I do call it the land of much water, but not so much right now. So you see me just constantly turning it around, trying to remember not to wrap my needle too tightly, because when I get in a hurry, I do have a habit of wrapping these loops way too tightly. And that combined with all of the layers of fabric make it really hard to pull the needle through. Darlene's in Canada. I don't remember what part of Canada. Oh, see, look what happened. I lost my thread out of my needle. Let's try that again. Okay, so this is going to be one of those. I'm running out of thread. So what I have to do is pull the thread out of the eye of the needle, wrap my loops, and then the steps I go to not waste any thread. Okay. Now, one of the things you could do with all of these, if you save them, is you could use some of that. What is that stabilize? There's a stabilizer that you get it wet and it disappears, the water soluble. And you could put a bunch of this on there and then like stitch it down with a machine or by hand, and then get it wet and wash away the stabilizer. And then you just have sort of a pad of thread. Yeah, so a lot of times now they have lots of colors that are very similar. I am at the moment trying to get a hold of the DMC swatch card that actually has actual swatches of the fabric on it. It's not the printed one. I've actually emailed DMC. They're out of stock. They're still out of stock. They keep saying they're going to get it in. They haven't gotten it in. Of course, the stores don't have it. Because I would love actual swatches of all the colors, because then when I'm out of something, I could like go to the swatch card rather than digging through the drawers of floss, which is honestly is a pain in the neck when you're looking for a color. I like to just open them and go, oh, there's green. I'll take that one. DMC actually emailed me back and said they were going to get the swatch card booklets back in at the end of June. Yeah, they still don't have them in, just FYI. Oh, Michelle, you made it. Yay. Okay. So the color difference is very subtle, but there is a difference, and it just, in my opinion, creates some more interest. You definitely can do these stitches with like crochet thread and stuff. Oh yeah, that's a great idea, Darlene. Especially, if your fibers are mostly natural fibers, mostly cotton. I think that's a great idea. I live next to the woods, for those that don't know, so there's a lot of wildlife around here. I keep hoping the blackberry bushes that are in the woods next to me, like that the deer and the skunks will leave me a few blackberries so I can see what color I would get dyeing fabric with them. Got to put on my galoshes and like go tramping off back into the woods and go see what happens. I need tall shoes though and long pants because there's poison oak back there and snakes. Oh, Estella, welcome. Yeah, I started out my creative journey sewing back in the day. I remember telling my mom and grandmother, that I really wanted new Barbie clothes for my doll. And I grew up pretty poor. We didn't have any money, couldn't just go out and buy toys when we wanted. And so my mom sat me at the machine and said, cool, it's time to learn how to sew then. And that was how I learned how to sew. And when I wasn't working at the machine and practicing on the machine, I was at my dad's mom's house, and she was teaching me hand stitching and embroidery. Her daughter, my aunt, was an artist then, going to school in San Francisco for an art degree, and she did a lot of embroidery and things. And I would sit and embroider with them and hem linen handkerchiefs. Had to learn how to hem them by hand before I could learn how to do the crochet edging. So this is really back to my roots of my creative journey, the stitching, and brings back memories of happier times, right? Less stressful times. And I really enjoy it. I forgot how much I do enjoy it until I started picking it up again because of being stuck at home. Yeah, somewhere there is an embroidery of a lion. I think actually my niece Megan might have it at her house, which is hilarious that it's even still around. It wasn't done very well, but it's around. I have a series of little cocktail napkins I did years ago that are downstairs that are all embroidered in the corner with a little motif. And each one is different. And we use those instead of paper. I like to use cloth napkins instead of paper napkins. So we use those when we have company over. Not that that's happening right now. I did so much sewing that when I got out of high school and needed to get a job to pay rent, I really only had the one skill, that was sewing. And so I got a job working at Chuck E. Cheese in the factory, and I was a fabric cutter and seamstress for Chuck E. Cheese for a while. I still hate fake fur. Yeah, kitchen towels. Those little what do you call them? I'm having trouble Englishing today. The little linens that would lay in the bottom of the basket where you would put like the dinner rolls in at dinner. I still have some of those too. All kinds of table linens, and yeah, I still have some of those. Some that I've done, some that my grandmother did, and we use them. But I found the idea of slow stitching and creating these sort of textile art pieces recently. And then since then, I've just gone crazy with it. I am loving it. And I like the idea of combining some of our skills that we've learned in the art journaling world with color and composition and applying those to a fabric piece and using the fabric and the colors and the stitches from the embroidery, maybe buttons and seed beads or yo-yos or, whatever you want to put on here, and creating an interesting composition. You don't need lots of fancy tools. You really just need a needle and thread and a pair of scissors. You don't need to go buy a bunch of paint. Or anything expensive. I've been known to, Michelle and Lisa can tell you, and some of the others, I cut up, when I can get to shops, I cut up old shirts for fabric. In fact, here's some. These are from old shirts from the thrift shop. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you're doing like some of the rest of us are and cleaning out closets because of the pandemic and because you're bored, before you take that bag of stuff over to donation or just throw stuff away, take a second look at the fabric. And, even if it's, a bit ratty, it might be something that's interesting that you can cut up and use for slow stitching. Or at the very least, I don't let my husband throw too many t-shirts away because they make great art room rags. I think I just have one more of these to do. And I actually think we might just be about done with this. Holy cow. We'll see. We'll take a look at it. I want to get all these bullion stitches on here before I look at it and decide if I'm done or not. My back is very messy. Grandma would not be happy. It's too messy for her. It doesn't look like the front. Let's see. Yeah, so use what you have, definitely, to the point where, Estella, when we're, looking for fabric colors and you can't or shouldn't go out to go get them, most of us have started sharing our ideas for dyeing fabric, different kind of like white on white printed fabrics and muslins to create different colors. This is turmeric, this bright yellow. So we've been doing some of that too. But yeah, using what you have. I mean, I understand why, my grandmothers both were the way they were about some things now. They both grew up during tough times, and, when times are tough, the creative get crafty, right? Isn't the turmeric a pretty yellow? Yeah, we're going to, Barbara, for those who are started late, I do think I'm going to start I was discussing this in one of the art chat groups this morning, and I honestly don't remember which one. It might have been a different one than the Creative Friends chat. I think I'm going to start a journal with swatches of the different colors that I've made so far and notes about what I've done to get those colors. And I'm going to start a sort of a journal a color dyeing journal, a notebook. Thank you so much. I'm really shooting for green and blue. I haven't gotten it yet. I got purple instead. So, but that's okay. And I think, we're going to keep doing these live broadcasts once a week. And as you guys let me know what you want to see. If you want to keep seeing stitching, I am more than happy to keep stitching. Right now, it's what I'm obsessed with. I hear doggy paws out in the hallway. Yeah, so I just thought some kind of a journal with swatches of the completed colors and then sort of notes off to the side of how I got that color. Some of the questions that have come up in the last few days are mordants and what do I add to the dye and why do I add it? So I make my dye from whatever I'm going to make it from, whether it be it coffee or black bean water or I'll answer that in a minute, Barb. Or boiled flowers or whatever. And usually I end up with about 2 cups of dye water. And then to that, I add a half to 1 cup of white vinegar, and then 1 to 2 tablespoons of alum, one of which helps the fabric absorb the color and the other one helps the color stick. I add those just directly to the dye because honestly, I've been saying for years, I'm the lazy crafter. I am not the frugal crafter that's Lindsay Ryrick. I'm the lazy crafter. And so I can't be bothered soaking my fabric into something separate and then putting it in the dye and blah, blah, blah. So I just put it all in the dye. And then I put the fabric or trims or whatever I want to dye into the dye water, put the lid on the jar and leave it sit for at least 2 days. A minimum of 24 hours, but usually about 2 days. And then afterwards, I take the fabric out, squeeze out the excess water into the jar, and then rinse it off and let it dry. And that's one of the ones I got. That's turmeric. And just using what I have around, what I can get cheaply and easily. I do right now, for those in the Pacific Northwest or in another area where you have it, you'll be very familiar with the name Fred Meyer. It's a large grocery store, I guess, chain. They're owned by Kroger. And they have, it's like Walmart on steroids. So they have groceries, they have organic groceries, they have electronics, furniture, clothing, everything. And right now, it's easiest to just go there to get stuff because you can probably get everything you need rather than driving all over town and taking a chance of exposing yourself to something. So we just go there and I can get, inexpensive turmeric for like $3 a jar. Oops, we're at the end of the thread here. Let's see. Ugh. So I came on at 9. I just thought I would try a different time, Barb. And if I'm going to do 9, it just depends on what you guys want. If you guys want to go back to 10 next week, we can do that. You guys let me know. I mean, I'm home, so it doesn't make any difference for me. So these broadcasts will be in a live broadcast playlist, but also if the broadcast involves slow stitching, then there is also a slow stitch playlist. I want to do one more, and of course that means I need some more thread because I just ran out. So I think we need one more up here. Let me get some water. Hang on. If you hear a dog barking, that's my daughter's dog, Lily. So I just got that wet a little bit. And that disappeared, the blue from the marking pen. I had to mark this line down here, so I got it in the right place. Let's see. Oh, Barb, I'm sorry. Oh, so the Facebook group is called A Life of Art and Self-Expression. And if you are not a member yet, just go over and just search A Life of Art and Self-Expression and request to join, and we'll get you in. Myself or one of the admins will get you in. I have another group that we don't share resources as much on. We just really share art videos and creative journey type things. It's called My Creative Year. And so you can request to join that one too. That one's more of like an online sort of collaborative art class. But A Life of Art and Self-Expression is, you can share tutorials, you can share your work daily, you can share resource material locations. And yeah, so sometimes, Barb, I have to wear these. For those that don't know, I've had injuries to both of my hands in the past. And I have at times had to have the brace on with the fun metal piece in the palm, Barbara, that you may be wearing right now. And so that sucks. And then you can't do anything. Last time it was my right hand, and I'm right-handed. All right, so looking at this, if I'm going to add more, what do you all think first? Somebody is outside and the dog is not happy. Yep, I've been there, done that. Last time I did it, I sliced my hand. Which hand was it? Was it this one? Might have been this one. I sliced my hand open in the kitchen on a can lid. I needed 5 stitches. Like, I mean, sliced it open. I needed to have stitches. And then I had to have it covered up and braced for, I forget how long. But I have compression gloves that I do wear sometimes. So I do think we need a little something else. Just a little bit. So we're going to get some of the white. Now, when you're adding highlights to your pieces, whether you're working in thread and fabric or you're working in paint, your highlights and shadows don't always have to be in black and white. Think of your colors that suggest sunlight and warmth for the highlights, and your colors that suggest coolness and shadow for the shadow colors. So for the pot, we put this like grayish green color for the shadow. I am going to use this white. I don't really want to introduce a new color. And I think we just need to add a little something. I'm debating as I'm getting the needle ready. Do I want to put, let's see how it looks. Worst case scenario, we can just cut it out. But I think a French knot would work. It took me years to figure out how to do a French knot, like years. So come up through the back, I'm right-handed, so hold your thread in the left hand and your needle in the right if you're right-handed. Wrap the thread around your needle facing away from the stitch this way. So the pointy end is over here. And then poke it back in. And I think just adding a couple of those in a couple places might do the trick for bringing some attention to that pot edge. Now, if you don't keep your loops as tight, you'll still get a French knot, but it'll be more of a messy French knot. I do think there's a name for that I can't remember right now. And you notice in the background, if you're looking, I didn't take those basting stitches out that we started with last week. I left them in. They add interest to the piece. Now, if I am going to add French knots, a new element to any art project, even if they're very subtle, then I like to add it in at least 3 places. So if I'm going to do pairs of French knots, then we'll find one more place. Let's see. So here, here, and maybe here. I'll take a picture of it later after I give it a press, and I'll post it later to social media. So if you want to see pictures of what it looks like close-ups, you can go to, of course, the Facebook art group that I mentioned earlier. You can go to my Instagram or Twitter. I used just 3 strands, by the way, of the white. Yeah, that's very subtle. But I like the way that looks. Yeah, it helps to immobilize your hands when you hurt your hands. It just really, yeah. I also have some doTERRA's Deep Blue, which is sort of smells like Bengay. That works when things get sore. So I love this piece. The only other thing you could possibly add is if you didn't want the pot to be free floating in space, you could add sort of a table ledge line here, which I've thought about doing. And I actually thought about doing it with buttons. Oops. Something like that, but I don't know if I'm going to add those. I'm not sure. I think I like it better without. Thank you so much. So next week, we can go back to 10 a.m. if y'all prefer. I know Barbara said she prefers 10 a.m. because she's got other commitments. That's totally up to you guys. I, of course, am available. I'm here. It's not like I'm going anywhere. So you guys let me know what you want. Thank you so much. I will be mounting it to a mounting board. I use the self-adhesive, what is it called? Hold on. This stuff. Let me zoom out. Hold on. Okay. So this self-adhesive mounting board, which if you've done needlework before, you've seen this. I will give it a grid press to get it nice and flat, and then I'll mount it to a piece of this with a label on the back. And then it's ready for framing. My pieces generally aren't intended for going in the wash. So these are intended to be art pieces all on their own. And at some point now, since the pandemic, I've got a few of them that are mounted on the board. They need actually framing. So, and I have my niece's wife, Tiffany, works at Michael's in the framing department. So I might actually have to like mail her a package and ask her, can you frame these for me and send it back? Let me know how much it'll be. So that's this. Next week, if you guys want to do more stitching, I think that we'll work on a piece in the meditation journal. This is something, especially when I'm completely stressed out about what's going on, that I work on pages in here. These are really easy to do. They're just little 6x6 squares. So you just need a 6x6 square for the base, and then some scraps of whatever you have laying around to work on top of that. And I can show you my process and walk you through it from start to finish. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I would so appreciate it. And they look great mounted on the board with a natural edge. I don't try to cover up the edge. So my idea is to mount them on the board and then have them put into a frame with a mat, but have the mat be about a ½ an inch away from the finished piece. The board, stealth stick board, is just to keep it flat. Because otherwise it's like floppy and like it's not gonna, you can't mount it. There's no other way to mount it. Plus, if your back is messy like mine and you want to cover that up, it's a great way. Plus, if you want to sign it, I would love at some point to get some labels made, large labels made with my name on them, that fabric labels that I can sew onto the back. But for right now, I just have ones I've printed on my printer. And so once I have it mounted on the board, I can put the label on the back of the board and then sign the label. I will pull out a couple. I showed a couple pieces last week. The face I showed last week was mounted on a board, and that wasn't, it didn't have a finished edge. I like the unfinished raw edge of the fabric. Don't forget to support your favorite creators, whether they're here on Facebook, on YouTube, or they're over in the Facebook art groups, whether it's Ian who's trying to go live, somebody say hi for me, or it's someone else. Most of us have a way you can support the free content, whether it's an Etsy shop or an Amazon affiliate link or a PayPal tip jar or something. Check out their video descriptions for a way to do that. And if you can't find a way, ask. I know would appreciate that. And yeah, next week we'll do a page in the meditation journal. You guys let me know in the our Facebook group if you would prefer. 10 a.m. is good. Okay, never mind. I was going to say something different. I just saw Lisa's comment. So we'll go back to 10 a.m. next week. It's a little easier for me too, to make sure I've had all my coffee and stuff. So we will go back to 10 a.m. next week, and we will do a meditation journal page, and we'll have some fun with it. So you all have a great day. Don't forget to stay safe, stay healthy, and stay creative, and to go out and have a great day. Do something nice for yourself because you deserve it, even if it's a little Etsy shopping. I'll set up the time for that next week, Barb, sometime later today. Keep an eye on my channel for those notifications. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you know when I'm going live. And all of these live videos that have to do with slow stitching will be in the slow stitch playlist, along with, there is a live broadcast playlist. So the recording for this will be up on YouTube later. Bye, guys. See you later.